The night at the fair haunted Julia long after the lights faded. The laughter of families, the music from the carousel, the bright ribbons dancing in the wind, they all still lingered in her mind. But louder than all of it was the echo of Kish's footsteps as he walked away from her. Slow, heavy, as though each step hurt him. He didn't shout. He didn't accuse. He simply stepped back, looked into her eyes with something deeper than sadness, and turned his face from her. That silent disappointment burned deeper than any insult could. Before we dive in, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoy stories like this, remember to like the video, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share it with someone who would love the story too. For days, Julia hid from the world. She locked herself in her room, shut the curtains, silenced her phone, and tried to swallow the storm boiling inside her. She replayed the moment again and again, the iPhone in her hand, the thrill rushing through her veins like forbidden fire, her heartbeat pounding like distant war drums. And the shock in Kish's eyes when he realized she had taken it. Again, she wished she could tear that version of herself out of her skin, but the monster lived too deep. Her mother, Esther, noticed she was feeding. She touched her forehead, her shoulders, her arms, looking for fever or sickness, anything physical to explain why her daughter had stopped smiling. But Esther, brilliant, thoughtful Esther, could not diagnose the kind of sickness that hides behind the calm face. Dondo, her father, had no time to notice at all. His hotels demanded every hour. He only saw Julia in passing, and she always forced a tight smile. But Kish noticed. He noticed even in the silence, and he was tired of walking away. On the 5th day, Julia heard a knock on her window. Soft, slow, familiar. She pushed the curtain aside and saw Kish standing there, hands in his pockets, the evening sun turning his skin bronze. He didn't smile. He didn't wave. He only looked up at her with eyes carrying exhaustion and determination. She opened the window. "Kish," she whispered, and he exhaled. "Julia, come outside, please." Those words broke something inside her. They walked down a quiet street. The breeze carried the scent of roasted corn and distant rain. It felt like the world had slowed down, waiting for her truth. After a long silence, she whispered, "You hate me now?" Kish stopped, turned to her. "Julia, I don't hate you. I never hated you, but I don't understand you, and that scares me." Tears filled her eyes. "You think I want this? You think I enjoy stealing? I don't even use the things I take. My hands move before my mind does. And afterwards, I hate myself." Her knees buckled. She sat on the club crying into her hands. Kish knelt beside her. "Then let me help you, but you have to tell me the truth." And Julia did. Every secret, every lie, every stolen item, every night she cried alone, every fear, that she was broken. When she finished, Kish wasn't disgusted. He looked relieved. "Julia, you are not a criminal. You are not wicked. What you have is medical." She blinked. "Medical?" "Yes. It feels compulsive, something you can't control. That's not crime, that's suffering." "Then what do I do?" she whispered. Kish rose and held out his hand. "You let me take you somewhere far, somewhere you can get answers." Slowly, she placed her hand in his. And that was the beginning. Dondo wasn't happy. Not at all. "What nonsense is this?" he thundered. "Julia is fine, she is just stubborn, spoilt." But Esther's voice was calm, gentle, firm. "Dondo, she is sick, and sickness is not cured by shame." That ended the argument. 2 weeks later, Julia and Kish were on a flight. Julia held his hand the entire time. The city they arrived in was quiet and green. The hospital bright and peaceful. Days passed in tests, interviews, assessments, deep questions, painful truths. But Kish never left her side. Finally, the doctor sat them down, a calm woman with silver glasses. "Julia, you are not a criminal. You are not wicked. What you have is kleptomania." The word echoed, naming the monster she fought all her life. The doctor explained the condition, the brain chemistry, the compulsions, the guilt afterwards, the treatment, the hope. For the first time, Julia felt understood. She cried, but these were tears of relief. Breathing deeply, knowing her darkest battle had finally met its first light. She wasn't healed, she wasn't whole, but she was no longer alone. The wind outside the hospital felt different that morning. Softer, warmer, as if the world was exhaling Julia. She stood beneath the tall maple trees that lined the walkway, their leaves whispering like gentle spirits. The word kleptomania still echoed inside her mind, but now it no longer felt like a curse. It felt like a map. Painful, yes, but guiding her towards understanding. Her fingers no longer shook with shame. They shook with the fear of the journey ahead. Kish walked beside her, hands in his pockets, watching her face carefully. Not pity, not fear. Something deeper, something steady. He saw her breathing in the new sunlight, the way someone breathes after being underwater too long. "We take this one day at a time," he said quietly. Julia nodded. One day at a time. They walked towards the taxi waiting for them, but she stopped suddenly. Her eyes moved back to the hospital doors, a hint of worry returning. "Kish," she cracked softly. "What if I fail?" Kish stepped close, lifting her chin. "Then we try again and again and again. Healing isn't straight. It bends, twists, and sometimes breaks, but we keep going." Julia exhaled, wiping a small tear that escaped. For the first time, she believed him. Nigeria welcomed them with heavy clouds and distant thunder, as if the sky itself sensed the weight of what Julia carried. Dondo and Esther were waiting at the airport. Esther rushed forward, hugging her tightly, But Dondo's arms hesitated before finally wrapping around his daughter. "You look tired," he managed. Julia smiled weakly. "It's been a long journey." Dondo nodded, avoiding her gaze, blinking too rapidly. Shame lived in his chest like a trapped bird. At home, the mansion felt different, quieter, softer. Esther prepared her meals, stayed by her side, and studied everything she could about impulse disorders. Dondo entreated to his office, wrestling with pride and regret. Kish visited daily. Julia began therapy sessions online with a specialist from abroad. Twice a week, she sat in her room with headphones on, learning about triggers, urges, breathing techniques, and self-awareness. Some days she felt strong, other days she broke down halfway, but her therapist gently reminded her, healing requires patience, not perfection. Yet the world outside did not pause. People whispered. Cousins remembered missing jewelry. Friends avoided inviting her out. Rumors crawled like shadows along the walls of the city. Julia felt every whisper like a needle against her skin. 3 weeks after arriving home, Julia felt confident enough to go out, not to a party, not to shop, but simply to breathe. Kish took her to a quiet art gallery. At first, it worked. The gallery smelled of paint and sandalwood. Art pieces hung on white walls, landscapes, portraits, abstract spirals. Julia walked slowly, tracing invisible patterns in the air. She felt safe, until she didn't. Near the far wall lay a collection of glass pendants, small beautiful crystals arranged in delicate rows, one shaped like a tear, one shimmering like water, one carrying a carved symbol she couldn't place. Her fingers twitched. That old fire, that spark she thought had died, flickered in her veins. Her breath quickened. Her hand rose, almost without her mind's permission. "Kish," she thought desperately, but the monster inside her moved faster. She touched the pendant. Just 1 second, just one spark. The surge came, that dangerous rush like lightning through her veins. Her palm almost closed around it. A hand gently covered her. Kish's hand, warm, steady, quiet. She froze. Kish did not scold. He only looked at her with the calm strength of someone who understood the war inside her. Her hand fell away. Tears pulled. "I'm sorry. I didn't want to. I didn't mean to. I didn't even think." "I know. That's why it's called a disorder, not a choice." She sobbed quietly. It was the first test, and though she stumbled, she did not fall. That evening, Dondo returned from the hotel, tired and distant. When Kish explained what had happened, Dondo's eyes darkened. "How long will this continue?" he demanded. "She has stolen from family, guests, strangers, and now she cannot walk into a simple shop without—" "Kish," Esther cut in. "Please, let me speak to my husband." She led him into their room. The door closed. Muted arguments drifted through the walls. Kish sat with Julia, who hugged her knees, fighting shame. Minutes later, Esther returned. "Your father loves you, but he does not yet understand what you are fighting." Julia nodded. She knew. "But," Esther added, lifting her chin, "but he needs healing too, not just you." A week later, Julia's aunt visited. Her backpack, deep red leather, caught Julia's eye. Inside it, a gold bracelet glinted. The sight was enough. A tremor ran through her fingers. Julia rose abruptly and slipped to the balcony where Kish waited. "She has a bracelet in the bag."
Her voice quivered, and I can't stop thinking about it. Kish did not panic. He did not scold. He only asked, "Julia, what are you feeling? Describe it." She closed her eyes. A pull, like something is dragging my hands, like I have no control. "Good," he said gently. "Now breathe." She followed. The tension eased. She survived the second test. Weeks passed. Julia grew stronger. Some days she felt almost normal, laughing, painting, cooking with Esther. Other days, small temptations crept up. A ring, a wallet, a neighbor's keys. But each time she fought, each time Kish guided her, each time her therapist reminded her that she was more than her disorder. Still, the third test would come, and it would be harder. It would not involve strangers. It would involve someone she loved. Someone's pain would cut deeper than any rumor.
The rain came before dawn, heavy, restless, impatient. It beat against the windows of the Dondo mansion as though trying to warn them of the day ahead. Julia awoke to the sound, her breathing soft and steady, unaware that grief was already tiptoeing toward her life like a thief in the dark. She stretched, inhaled, and told herself this would be a good day. But the hardest days are often the ones that begin the softest. Downstairs, Esther moved quietly through the kitchen. She wore her favorite bracelet, thin, gold, shaped like a vine wrapping around her wrist. Dondo had gifted it to Esther on their 10th wedding anniversary. It had survived surgeries, late-night shifts, years of arguments, and years of forgiveness. Esther rarely wore jewelry, but that bracelet, it was a piece of her heart. Julia noticed it the moment she stepped into the kitchen. A small, innocent flash of gold, a glimmer, a temptation. She looked away quickly. "Morning, Mom." Esther smiled. "Good morning, sweetheart. Breakfast?" Julia nodded and sat at the table. Her therapist had taught her not to stare at triggers, so she focused on the fruit bowl, the tiled floor, the soft hum of the kettle. But the bracelet shone again. Just a flicker. Just enough. Julia felt the shift inside her, the faint tightening in her chest, the itch in her fingers, the electricity crawling beneath her skin like fire waking up. She pressed her hands under her thighs, breathing quickly through her nose. Not today. Not today. Not today. Kish arrived moments later, shaking rain from his jacket. He grinned at Julia, kissed her forehead, and greeted Esther. He didn't notice the tremor in Julia's hands. She hid them well. They spent the morning talking about therapy, future plans, and a charity event the hotel was hosting. Julia felt strong again. She even laughed. She even teased Kish. Everything felt almost normal. But inside her mind, the urge simmered, waiting, watching, growing. After breakfast, Esther removed her bracelet and placed it gently on the dining table before going upstairs to take a call. Julia froze. The bracelet sat there, quiet, unmoving, shining like a small sun. Kish didn't see it. He stepped onto the porch to answer a message from his brother. Julia was alone. Completely alone. Her breathing quickened, her heartbeat raced, her palms grew damp. She stood up, pacing, pressing her fists against her thighs. No, not this one. Please, not this one. But the monster inside her, silent for days, stepped out from the shadows. Her fingers twitched. Her legs moved without her permission. Before she knew it, she was standing in front of the bracelet, staring at it, pleading with it, begging it to stop calling to her. But the pull was stronger than her will. A single tear slid down her cheek as her hand reached toward it, slow, trembling, helpless. Her fingers touched the gold, warm, alive, and in one swift, terrifying moment, she slipped the bracelet into her hoodie pocket. The rush hit her like lightning, a dizzying wave of satisfaction, a tingling thrill, a warmth spreading through her chest. And then, guilt. Crushing, choking guilt. Julia stumbled backwards, gasping for air. Oh God, no, no. What have I done? Kish walked in at that exact moment. Julia turned instinctively, hiding the pocket with her body. But Kish's eyes were too sharp, too knowing. Julia, he said softly, what's in your pocket? Her knees weakened, her lips trembled. I didn't know. Kish stepped closer. Julia, please, don't do this. She shook her head. I didn't mean to. I swear, I swear I... Before she finished, Esther walked downstairs. Her eyes went straight to the empty spot on the table. Her face paled. Where's my bracelet? Julia closed her eyes. Silence fell like a hammer. Kish's heart dropped. Esther's breath caught. Julia's soul collapsed. She reached into her pocket with trembling fingers and slowly pulled out the bracelet. Esther's face broke, not with anger, but with heartbreak so raw that it sliced the room in half. Julia, my own daughter. Julia fell to her knees. I'm sorry, Mama. I'm sorry. Please. I didn't mean to. I fought it. I swear Esther backed away, tears sliding down her cheeks. Dondo appeared at the doorway, drawn by the commotion. When he saw the scene, when he saw the bracelet, something inside him snapped. This is enough, he roared, his voice shaking the walls. This is enough, Julia. You cannot keep destroying this family. Julia sobbed harder, her tears pooling on the marble floor. Mom, Daddy, please. Kish knelt beside her and held her shoulders. Let her breathe. She didn't choose this. She is sick. Sick, or spoiled, or simply shameless. She steals from strangers and now she steals from her own mother. Esther covered her mouth, crying quietly. Julia felt the world collapsing around her. Her disorder had finally crossed the line she feared the most. She had hurt her mother. I'm a monster, she whispered through tears. I'm a monster. I don't deserve help. I don't deserve any of you. Kish cupped her face, forcing her to look at him. You listen to me, he said, his voice breaking. You are not a monster. You are fighting something you cannot control. And today, you lost the battle, but you did not lose the war. But Julia shook her head violently. No, I lost everything. Esther, through her tears, stepped forward and knelt in front of Julia. She took her daughter's shaking hands and placed the bracelet back onto her own wrist. Listen to me, she whispered, her voice trembling. You stole from me today, but you are still my child, and you are still sick. Not evil, not wicked, sick. Julia sobbed into her mother's lap, holding her tightly. But Dondo stood rigid, jaw clenched, his pride shattered into pieces he could not pick up. He walked out of the living room without another word. That silence was louder than his anger. That night the air was thick with sorrow. Julia sat in her room, clutching a pillow, feeling like she had fallen deeper than ever before. Her therapy notebook lay open beside her, the pages shaking in the wind from the open window. Kish entered quietly. He sat beside her and didn't speak for a long time. He simply held her hand.
Finally, he said, "We need to go back." Julia looked up. Back? To the hospital to continue treatment. Seriously, intensively, away from distractions, away from everything that triggers you. Julia, you need full-time help. Her chest tightened. Kish, do you think I can ever get better? He held her face gently. I know you can, but you must fight now. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now. Julia swallowed. What about my parents? He whispered. Your mother will support you. Your father, he needs his own kind of healing, but that's his journey, not yours. Julia pressed her forehead against his chest, tears soaking his shirt. Kish, will you stay with me? He kissed the top of her head. I'm not going anywhere. And so, with her heart aching and her future uncertain, Julia made the decision that would shape the rest of her life. She would return abroad for a full treatment program, not to escape shame, but to confront the monster within her once and for all.